we both have histories of involvement with religion, religious institutions, and particularly those that have worked with the LGBTQ plus community and in a positive way, and talk about how that might impact on care provision for the elderly.
Yeah, that's right. And my experience of the faith community I belong to has been really positive. I was thinking back about 5 years ago. We had this young trans man come to the church, and he asked if he could have a naming ceremony. And it was beautiful. People they did a lovely ceremony for him, changing his name. And the whole church just stood up and affirmed him and clapped. And people were in tears, and he was in tears. Just pure affirmation.
Wow. And this community, this is made up of a full cross-section of the community.
Yeah, from 0 years old to 100 years old.
And all sex, gender.
We have trans, non-binary, gay, lesbian, everybody there. And it's not a gay church, It's a family.
Okay, so do you have any people who are heterosexual?
Oh,
in
yeah,
the community?
tons.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
so
it's
a
fully
great
inclusive.
family, fully inclusive, a great family, and that's what we want.
Right.
As a gay man, I don't want just to be in a gay ghetto. I want a family.
No, me too. Funnily enough, the Jewish faith, particularly the progressive end of it, has a long history in this country of LGBTQ plus networks through religion.
Yeah.
I used to belong to a community called Beit Kalal Yisrael, which used to operate out of a church in, they took the facilities in Notting Hill. And that became a kind of nucleus for people who were queer, who could feel comfortable with their religion and their sex gender definitions. But as time has progressed, all of the progressive movement has completely taken on board in a very positive way. Yeah. And even Masorti, which is an Orthodox service, although they are socially more progressive than United Synagogues, men and women sit together, for instance, they have also, in 2017, introduced same-sex marriage. So it's a very positive view I have. It is about affirmation, not about tolerance. Yes. The one thing I would say is I have one or two friends who come from more religious backgrounds. I have one friend in particular I'm thinking of who is trans, and she has had rather negative response from communities. Yeah. It's been difficult for her, and not only communities, but wider networks, friends, etc. I think it depends on your level of religious affiliation in Judaism. You know, the progressive movement is very supportive, and we have several, I think, at the last count, 20 queer rabbis in the London area or something. Yeah. So, you know, there's no shortage of support network. The problem is in the wider community, and most Jews in Britain, in terms of the numbers game, are affiliated to the United Synagogue. So it doesn't mean individuals who go there are not supportive, but their institutions are not particularly.
Yeah. We have similar in Christianity as well.
Do you? How could you explain?
Yeah, within the church, within the denominational settings of the church and the institution of church, there are the Methodist and the United Reformed Church are completely inclusive now. They do same-sex marriage, but again, it can depend on individual congregations. But as a hierarchy, they're pro. Whereas some of the churches, like the Anglican Church, the Salvation Army, in the hierarchy is saying we don't quite agree with it. But within the individual congregations, they're okay.
Okay.
So you have to be careful where you go.
Right, because of course, I mean, I'm not Christian, but my understanding of the Church of England, Anglican faith, is that it's quite a no-no to kind of be too overtly supportive of queer identity.
That's wrong in a sense, because
Okay,
you can identify
right,
as gay, as lesbian, trans, whatever.
right,
But if you're a minister, a priest, then you have to be celibate
okay,
within that. If you're a member of the congregation, then no, it's okay.
okay.
But they will not marry you. They will bless the wedding now, but will not marry you.
Yeah, I mean, I actually know the rabbi who first wrote the blessing for same-sex marriages in the 90s. And then that was taken on board as the marriage ceremony in due course. And he had to leave, say, the United Faith as a rabbi to be a minister. And he was accepted, obviously, in the progressive movement. But it's still a difficult area. But it's changing slowly. I mean, there was a publication recently by Keshet UK, which is an educational Jewish LGBT organization. And they tend to go into schools, do a lot of schools training, and maybe adult education, etc. But their latest report, as it were, a fairly lengthy thing, actually had an introduction by the chief rabbi in it. And he made the point very clearly that we will not tolerate prejudice in our schools or bullying. And for him to come out and say that was a huge step forward, actually. So I suppose what, as I've intimated with the Jewish care narrative, it's not really a problem in Jewish elderly care facilities, but I think that for care workers, the message I would give them is that the institution, particularly the progressive one in Judaism in the UK, is very, very, very supportive and affirmative of LGBTQ identity, and that we would expect that in the care institutions with a religion label attached to follow suit.
I think I would say the same within religious-based care homes, like the Methodist homes, Salvation Army homes. They do have a policy on, again, anti-bullying, anti-homophobia, the whole thing. And the management are all being trained in ensuring that there's a warm acceptance for people. But one thing that concerns me, I think, within care homes and me getting older, is that I can understand that the care workers may be okay, but sometimes there needs to be support for the residents that may be homophobic. My fear is more...
You mean resident versus resident?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like coming out twice.
Right.
You already come out as gay, and you go into a care home, and you're a bit worried what the other residents may think.
For myself, as I get older and I think about the possibility of care, I know for one that for myself that I would choose, given the option, I would choose to go into a Jewish care home. Because if I'm staring at things like potential dementia, whatever, there will be things in my memory bank that are so ingrained from my early years that I will want celebrated in my relationship with care staff. And I think that I want that community to be as good as it possibly can be.